allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Like I said, prayer.
Absolutely.
Dear Heavenly Father, please help us to make the right decisions in the best interest of the county's money. Thank you, Lord, for all your help. Guide and direct us. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, John.
All right, thanks. Redevelopment meeting here, Thursday, September 26th, 2024. First on the agenda tonight is the Boatman Road property. So this is obviously the property that Scott County School District owns. We have looked at this to the point that we have an appraisal done, and there's been some consideration in the past on this board. I will say that I have talked with the superintendent, and the school, wants to continue to work with us, so would there be any, I guess, interest in continuing negotiations of some sort for the property? I know the school is willing to work with us from a standpoint of, could there be alternative financing, cash flowing, that kind of thing, not to put redevelopment in a bond, obviously to give us an opportunity to, spread some payments out, look over that for maybe however that looks. Is there, they are willing to even meet with us, whether it's an executive meeting, to talk about some of these things. I guess what I'm asking the board is there any interest in this board to talk with the school and see what kind of terms that they would consider, or right?
Well, I think it's an opportunity. I'm not sure how good of an opportunity it is, but I would like to possibly put together a proposal or go back and talk to them and reevaluate, because we started out meeting and waiting for appraisals, and we felt like we were going to go all in. At the time, it would have taken a big chunk of the capital we have to invest to do that, and then we backed up a little bit, cooled our jets, and we're trying to understand how we could enjoy the results of a TIF zone without the investment. And there's pros and cons both ways. If we don't make the investment and just enjoy the proceeds versus us actually buying it and being in control of it. So if there was an opportunity that we could go back and actually talk to them again and maybe negotiate payment terms that we could bring in front of the board, and it might be something we could do that would help us have control of what actually happens there in the interest of the county, and we could aggressively control our working capital as well. So I don't know if I need to make a motion, but the motion would be, I would like to make a motion that Greg Prince and whoever else he deems necessary go back to the school and present a proposal or talk to them about options in acquiring that property.
I would like, I mean, if that's what the board would desire, I would like for all of us to meet, our board meets with their board.
Sure.
I wouldn't be opposed to sitting down and listening to them, see, but I've looked at that in a lot of different ways, and somebody would have to change my mind right now.
I would like to see what our plan is of attack as far as, you know, how do we wanna lay this out, set this up before we go invest too much into it, because
But I would be opposed to sitting down and hearing them out.
that's kinda with me too.
Mhm. Well, and that's kind of my thoughts on it too. I thought, well, yeah, they've been very accommodating on this process, and I don't know where that could lead to. I do agree with what you're saying, Brad, as far as, there is a big element of control with that property, obviously, if we have it. Now, what that would look like, what that would mean for Scott County, in the future, versus, something else that could go in. Who knows?
I guess it
Or if
will.
anything would.
Well,
I don't know.
it was my understanding that they had some other people interested in it anyhow. And I don't wanna get in the way of another developer doing what they wanna do,
Right.
But I don't really wanna see houses in there either.
And there you go. I mean, that's
That's
the element of
That's where
control.
we would have control, or we would have to do that.
Jill, you
I'd
got
be
any
willing to
thoughts on
sit
it?
down and talk to them.
I don't care to listen, but I think I've already expressed to the board that it's gonna take a lot and some to get me to be a yes vote. But I don't care to listen to what they gotta say.
A yes vote to purchase? or-
Yes.
Okay.
So do we wanna move forward maybe with a meeting? Is that a nice
I'd be
idea?
willing to do that.
Okay. Somebody wanna make a motion, Ben?
I move that we, empower Greg to set up a meeting with their board and our collective board to discuss moving forward, with respect to acquiring the property
No negotiation time.
and, right.
I'll second it.
John Collins seconds that. Jennifer, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, guys. I'll reach back out to Mark and, let him know, and we'll coordinate with those folks, and we'll get a meeting set up and see where that goes.
Very good.
Let's see, next on the agenda, we've got the Westwood Golf Course. I know, last meeting we had, we did have Justin from the golf course come in. Asked for, had a project in there, with the, cart paths and such. We were, in approval contingent on a couple of things, and the, couple of things that was based on the approval was, his lowest estimate and, whether or not we, thought that we could do that, within the guidelines. So at this time, the research that we've done, that project doesn't quite meet the guidelines of this board, so, I guess I would like to just ask for a motion to, reconsider.
I move that we reconsider the vote for the Westwood Golf Course to give them the money for the path.
John Collins makes that motion.
Second. Or Johnny can answer.
Johnny White seconds that. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, looks like next we've got, Josh Hillman with Dan Christiani excavating.
Sure.
You guys wanna just come on up?
Yep, be glad to.
Yeah.
Craig, I don't know what you have already shared with them from any of our conversations. Do you want me to just start?
Start. Yeah.
Start at the beginning?
Yeah.
Well, Josh Hillman with DC Develop and the Dan Christiani excavating team. To give a little bit of background on myself, president of DC Develop. I'm a professional engineer and a licensed land surveyor here in Indiana. I came on the DC team about 2.5 years ago, and when I came on their team, the intent for me was to oversee and run their land developments that they're doing across the state. We started DC Develop to primarily be that land development and engineering consultant operational guidance for utilities and things of that nature. As such, we've grown it. We're developing properties somewhere around 1,800 acres across the state right now. A lot in Clark, Floyd, and Scott, and then some a little further north. You'll see some in Jennings. You'll see some up in Henry County and a few other places. And that's single-family residential, industrial, light industrial, and heavy industrial. And then you'll also see a little bit of commercial retail hanging out there as well. Shadow Lake Industrial, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Charlestown, just right across from River Ridge in Charlestown. We have about 600 acres there that we're developing, 300 that is industrial commercial business park, and then 300 that's single family residential intended. Here in Scott County, we have an industrial site inside city of Scottsburg down at Water Tower that we're working through the due diligence process to create a shovel-ready project. It was a ready application for the city of Scottsburg. Plus, we compiled a team of about 150 acres between Dan Christiani, the Hauser family, and Ken Temple there at 56 and Boatman, and then a couple of single family sites that we've been working as well, that here in the next 6 months you're going to see construction really begin. So Greg and I have been, let me introduce Jason Applegate with Extol Media. And Jason and I have been working over the last year in Austin, Indiana. We started in Austin with the city of Austin a little over a year ago, working on their desire to develop the York Road site that they have, which was about 290 acres that they wanted to develop as a single family with potential for multifamily. And so they had RFP'd the property. We put together a team and a package to come in, get that site under a development opportunity, and so pending ready, we expect it to develop into a potential about 180 lot single family residential development. And Greg and I about a year ago started talking about doing the same in Scott County, in the county, not in one of the cities. But Extol Media came on board with us as a part of our team in Austin, helping to create a narrative, helping to build up a marketing program for the city of Austin. And if you're on social media or following Austin, you'll probably see a number of the things we've done there. We held an event last fall, so I want to say it's the first week of November, and created a brand of Energize Austin in Austin. Working with the mayor, Chris Fugate, City Council, and Redevelopment Commission. And I feel like we've had a very good program over the last year of what we're doing there. So I share that because in talking with Greg, that was one of the things he asked us to do, was to put together kind of that same team for property with Scott County. So Jason, anything you want to just add in there?
No, just Jason Applegate, as Josh had mentioned, and our belief in some of these, in these scenarios is that you'll have a lot of opportunity for development, and then as one part, and then the part that gets left behind is how to get people to buy these properties, or while these are being developed, nobody sees what the end goal is. So what our job is this is not a if you build it they will come scenario, but as we're building that foundation to look at this area, because when people now search online or they look for a place to live, which happens a lot of time with remote living and things like that. They'll look where to live and then they'll want to live there. So we make sure that that is feasible and what that looks like from an online presence, from also a community side, that if we are building these new homes, you're gonna have new people move into these areas. So you wanna make sure that the community itself is ready in that. So that's where it's kind of a rising tide lifts all ships, and from a marketing side, a community side, in your all's case, tourism side, to where all those match up and meet instead of it just being a one project, and if it works, or if it doesn't, it doesn't, type of a scenario.
So quick question,
Yes, sir.
Jason, are you already in contract with the city of Austin now?
We are, as of right now.
So we had an annual contract with
Yes.
the city of Austin, and we're meeting with them.
We as in you both?
Yes,
Okay,
it was together as a team. so-
Collaboration type.
Yep,
Yeah.
so I held the overall contract, and then Xtoll is a sub-consultant to me. We're just passing them through, it's no markup, just for them to come and be a part. That way we're able to have clear interaction with them, so that it don't have to go through the clerk treasurer, don't have to go through the mayor, redevelopment. It's just coming through me and directive, and Jason's interacting direct with them, but everything's running through one point for
Okay.
consistency.
But we work hand in hand with the mayor's office, with Chris, with, all of them, on their full communications, from trash pickup, if you have a holiday, all their communications that side, their graphics, their logo design, their new website we're getting ready to release. All of those items have been just directly working with them.
So the drive, I'm interested, but the driver is, you just mainly, if you're getting people interested to move to Austin, is the website, or you're sending out targeted emails, or you're not doing TV commercials?
No, so, I mean, it's a process, right? I mean, so right now, where we've looked at from the first year when we looked at this, is that we looked online, and I mean, and it's a lot in Scott County, is if you search Scott County, Scott County, Austin, some of these, what is gonna pop up, right? There's, Sheriff's Department has a lot of posts out there, and those type of things. And then some of the other stuff just gets buried online. So as we look at that, we've spent this better part of the year, along with getting them rebranded from a new logo and those items, starting the Energize Austin standpoint, getting to know the community quite well, of going to all their events, taking photos, building that community, is to then get that piece out. Met with the school system to learn about their programs, about how, a lot of them will graduate with an associate's degree and those type of things. So we get involved in the community to where we understand that. And then along with that, we're building that groundwork of that the community is understanding what are happening with the projects, what is going on, making sure that the whole community is. Once we have all of those pieces in line, because there'll be a similar type process if this would go through, to where we would evaluate, right? And then once we get to a point, we're gonna find out what is our market and how are we gonna reach them. There will be some external marketing and those type of things that's not included in anything here. That would be hey, here's what we think we ought to do, propose those, whether it's billboards, TV, radio, online. If our demo matches up to a demo that we know we can target, then we will specifically target that demo with digital or other items like that. So
We're sitting down with the city of Austin next week, Thursday, I think, to talk through with them. We will have just completed the first full year. So our discussion with them is, where were we a year ago? What have we accomplished over the last year? Where do we want to go for the next year? And what's that long range plan? So some of the things Jason's alluding to is, will they see a need for radio or TV, or do they see a need for billboards, or do we start doing targeted ads? So that's, we're going to sit down with them and talk about the next year, because I know they're very interested and excited in doing that. But it's building a program, it's building a narrative. That was when we sat down with them a year ago and they said, hey, we've got 290 acres and we want to turn it into a new subdivision. You know, you think 290 acres and probably 230 of it is in floodplain, so changes that a little bit. But when you talk about it, who's going to buy those homes? Because 180 homes or 280 homes in Austin, that's a major part of the county. It's a major part of Austin. So who does that buyer become? How do we help bring that buyer here? And how do we help make sure it's a part of the community that you want? And you don't want to just go put in, as we hear pretty regularly, you don't want to go put in a vinyl village. You don't want to go put in something that doesn't fit the character and nature of the community. And so if I take that same thought process and transition it into what, you know, we're talking here, industrial land. The commissioners, you all own acreage just north of Austin, and the discussion Greg and I have had is how do we take that and basically get it shovel ready? How do we start advertising, marketing, developing that piece of land? So I think Jill probably knows very well that we get 1 or 2 RFP requests a week from One Southern Indiana, from GLI, from the Greater Louisville Inc., projects that are looking in the state of Indiana and they're looking for something. But right now your project's not really out there. Your property isn't out there. We don't have a wetland delineation that's been done on it. We haven't evaluated floodplains. We don't have clear title on the property that we can say, here, you all own it free and clear, but we don't have it from a survey perspective to say there were easements, there were encumbrances, there were items that complicate it, so that when we go and talk to a national logistics company or a national distribution company that may be looking, we can say this piece of property is
ready.
Good.
We've already done all the hard waiting.
Yeah, and so we have been doing that, and just 3 weeks ago, I think it was 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 at this point, we had an international logistics company that was in looking at the piece on Boatman and 56. So they flew in, met with us. We got shortlisted, is my understanding. They ruled out River Ridge as a site, and they've kept the Scottsburg site there at State Road 56 in Boatman. But since then, just yesterday, we responded to one looking for 50 to 100 acres that this property would be a great fit for as well. There's an automotive, a truck maintenance facility that wants about 20 acres and runs full-time 24/7 shifts, looking for something that's potentially heavy industrial. So every week we're hearing this. Last fall, I think Greg may have, I think Jill was, we were a part of, Scott County did with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, we did a site selection. I don't know who all was a part of that, but I had the opportunity to sit and talk through the number of sites that we have in Scott County. This site's one of those sites that, as a part of that site selection, we need to get ready, and they're ranking them every year, and the IEDC is sending your project sites out. So I passed out a lot of paper, but if you look at, well, let me just start here with the graphic. So I passed this one out. This is just a generic outline of the property that you all have there. And my recollection off top was it's about 80 acres of usable property, if I remember right. Total, a little more than 100, I believe, but about 80 that's outside of floodplain. So what we would do is we would go through the full due diligence. So I told you all I'm an engineer and land surveyor, so for me, everything takes a checklist. So about 2 years ago, I put together just an overall land development checklist. So this is what I go through when I'm looking. I'm going to go through each item. I'm going to go through planning and zoning. I'm going to go through land survey. I'm going to go through environmental. That's not in your packet, but I can hand this out to anybody that wants it afterwards. So the engineer in me has to go through a very methodical process, just like NDOT would, just like any planning and zoning department. So the proposal that you all see here is really that scope. And then on top of that scope, item number 3 on the second page, that's separate from the property, but that would be intended to be for the county as a whole, to basically have us help and work through a community marketing and visioning program with you, similar in nature to what we are doing in Austin, but a bigger community. And we'll also hit emphasis on the industrial property. And if you all consider the Boatman Road property, it's helping to bring that total vision in for what you all want to see, so that we're doing and you all are doing what is best.
And then it also, within our side, we also like your ribbon cuttings, your groundbreakings, promotion of all your events throughout the county, those items, all of that stuff becomes included. Your social media pages. In your scenario, you have tourism as well involved. As you can see, that pushes that tourism side. Currently, I think that you're using another service that is emailed to somewhere from not around, that you email the information, they post it, and those things will be hands-on. All video production, our photography, drone, all of that stuff is all included, everything like that builds up all of these things that build that message. If right now, if I go to Scott County, you see Great Scott, you see Visit Scott County, you see a bunch of different things, and nothing tells me what it is. And that's where you all know as well as I do, and I've been involved in political stuff. I was elected city council in New Albany, so I've sat on redevelopment there, running currently for a state position. But right now, and those are the things that I understand from your all side, that we have to spend tax dollars wisely. We have to make sure that these things make sense, and how to explain these out to the public, and look at from your all side to where you have to answer for them. So
the intent, really, you all are doing a lot, and the community doesn't hear it. Usually a community will focus on what's loud, or what's the loudest voice at the time. But creating this marketing program helps us be your mouthpiece. It helps us share the good things that the council are doing, the good things that the commissioners are doing, the good things that the county as a whole is pushing forward as that vision. And that was the same thing in Austin. Nobody knew that they were really redeveloping parks. Nobody knew that they were buying land with the intent to come in and grow the community. Nobody knew that they were doing an infill project where they were buying rundown homes and taking that effort to redevelop those areas. You don't know about those things unless you're one of the people that's
On the board.
on the board. And this helps to share that. It helps to create and change the narrative that may be there. It helps to get the other counties, you want to become, I think you want to become part of that bedroom community that supports. You may have people that go work in Seymour. You may have people that go work at River Ridge. You may have families that have somebody that works in Louisville, but you want to be there to support. But at the same time, while other communities are growing housing, you're growing industry and you're growing jobs, so you can live, work, and play here. And good paying, good above county average wage jobs. The one that we referenced on the 56 and Boatman property, that company told us they are about $4 above the county average wage. And that's a pretty big number coming in for a logistics distribution company. So those are the kind of things that you create. But this document here, I know it's on a glossy piece of paper, it's all about creating that perspective. This is what helps us create the perspective. These are the soft things, the things that aren't a report at the end of the day, where we want to get to know the community more, where we want to go and engage and involve the community, involve boards and agencies, so that we can create perspective on this industrial property. It's about creating that perspective where we can take that company that's potentially looking and we sell them on Scott County. We sell them on the property, we sell them on the things that may not show up in a statistic right now, and we sell them on things that they would have to be reading the newspaper every day, they'd have to be reading social media to get. We're creating the perspective that we can go and use to market your property or properties and the county for businesses, industries that want to be here.
So Josh, are you going out and searching, or are you just there to receive requests?
We're doing all. So
Okay.
here being right on I-65. So because of what we've done down in Shadow Lake, in Charlestown, being right there at River Ridge, we're interacting.
That's 62, right?
That's 62, but it's on the 65 corridor.
Okay.
So when you're talking with the distribution and logistics companies, they're looking at the I-65 and the I-75 corridor. So their interest in being on that 64, 71 corridor is not there.
Yeah.
But they want to be between Louisville and they want to be between Louisville and Indy. So being right on the I-65 corridor, we're interacting with the national companies that are serving. We're interacting with the real estate companies, commercial, industrial, and we're pushing the properties every day to them. Okay. So we're responding to what comes from the state, what comes from 1SI weekly, but we're also going out and meeting with large capital companies that are out of St. Louis, that are out of Indy, that are trying to find a place. And we're saying, look here, look at Scott County. You have the opportunity to hit a labor pool. You have the opportunity to be between Indy and Louisville. You're right on that corridor. They want to be on the 65 corridor.
Chicago, Nashville, Mobile, Atlanta. Yes. Are you familiar with the Plan Commission's project, the Big Thick project that the mayor has? Are you know what I'm talking about?
Sure that
He is.
Okay.
He is familiar with it? Okay. It's a big, thick, plan
It's
for.
the rules and regulations for the new.
Well, it talks about,
yes, absolutely.
different types of what we're looking for, community, businesses,
yes.
A, B, C, and all that stuff.
Well, do you check with the schools or see if the schools, when you don't put all these houses in here, if the schools don't have the opportunity to what's the community supposed to do, I guess, and if you bring in more houses, you have to have a bigger fire station.
That's right. So
bigger ambulances, just a lot of things add up too there with the infrastructure that you need.
And so really they all go hand in hand, because the tax dollars that come from the industry, the assessed value on a logistics or distribution company, it's going to be significant.
It's sounded a lot like an owl.
Something just died down there.
The assessed value that you would get and collect tax-wise would significantly benefit that. But we sat down with Scott County School 2 a little over a year ago when we started talking about the Maple Run subdivision. I want to say January this year. Jason and I, it was snow on the road. Jason and I sat down with superintendent for Scott County School 1, and we're talking about ways to involve and incorporate so that we're able to go and do some fun things with the schools, but talking about the growth that we're happening as well.
I just know in District 2, there's a lot of elementary schools are full.
Yep.
And you bring more people in, you're gonna have to do something pretty quick.
Sure.
It is, and those are the scenarios that as we look at this, we try to, but we look at all of those comprehensive type things. That's where Josh and his team are able to look at the utilities and make sure that the utilities match up to where they will be able there. If they're not, then we gotta start forecasting out for those type of things. If there is leverage on schools, what are gonna be those fixes down the road and how do we work through those issues? The one answer that we can't sometimes sit on, right, is that you just say, oh, we can't tell you anymore, we're done, right? Because then nobody, if you're not growing, and I don't mean this in a way, but if you're not smart growing, then you're gonna die, or somebody's gonna come in and then be somebody's gonna come in after the fact and then grow it for you, and that's what we don't want to happen. And that's where, when we look at it from a community side, we try to address those scenarios and build those, items and understand what those look like and then communicate those to the public, because sometimes that might have some additional things involved from a community standpoint, whether it, you know, if there are additional taxes or whatever those type of things are down the road, which, you know, whatever those things are, or if there's new utilities or there's other stuff, that is going on, that's where we help with those, overall, communication to the public to make sure that everybody knows this stuff ahead of time.
So the uniqueness of us, and me maybe more specific, is that before I came on the DC team, I spent 17 years as a city engineer, a town engineer, where I was the sewer board's engineer, the drainage board's engineer for Jeffersonville, Charlestown, drainage in New Albany, working with Clark County. So I was that community engineer. So my focus, even though I may sound like a developer these days, my focus always comes back to, I want to make sure what we're doing is good for the community, because if what I do harms them, they're not going to want me back. And I want to be here the next 20 years, next 25 years, growing the community together as a partner. If I do one bad project now, y'all are going to say, no, you're not welcome back. And I don't want that. I live in Jeffersonville. I've been working in Scott County significantly, I think, over the last 2 years. I want to be here for the next 20. I'm not going to do something or encourage you all to do something that is going to hurt the community.
The one thing we have trouble with in Scott County is drainage. We have a lot of trouble with that.
Understand that completely. Yes, we are working.
Sewage?
Water drainage.
Water drainage, oh.
Scott County, so Scottsburg City sits in a bowl, if you look around.
So a few months ago, maybe 5 months ago, the mayor hired me as DC Develop to come and be their support city engineer as well. So I'm working with Jill and the mayor on a pretty regular, pretty weekly basis. Our team this week has been up working to support wastewater needs, but pretty regularly we're evaluating drainage issues, working through some permits with NDOT for small drainage repairs on collapsed pipes, working with other engineering firms to put Band-Aids on where it can, but do actual real repairs where it's possible as well, evaluating things so that they can be ready for this year, next year. We're helping them go through the addition of the MS4 program, as the city of Scottsburg is now required to be an MS4 community. So very well aware of drainage. That drainage was actually, it's the thing to be a unique city engineer, where you can go look and fix and evaluate drainage issues, because everybody has them. You just got to figure out how you can afford it.
I was from Stucker. I gave the presentation for Ready 2
Yeah.
on behalf of the Drainage Board and the need for Stucker Fort and its needs for being cleared out in certain areas that needs dredged, or a lot of blockage in a lot of areas that we need a lot of ditching.
And we have a county board, but the city's exempt from that board.
Yes.
And that's the problem too, is they trying to get along and make sure everybody.
Well, the Stucker Fort is,
Yes.
drainage is, it's long, and it's
Yes, it
significant,
is.
and it runs through Austin and Scottsburg. It's a hurdle, for sure, and there's not a lot of funding out there for it, and it's expensive work.
And the problem there is you don't have a county engineer. You don't have anyone that's really guiding a lot of that, other than the commissioners for the county. So without having a full-time person that can help you, you have to wait until you have a project or something that's really pushing to where you have a team that's able to help there. I called Greg right after his Ready presentation and said, how do we get involved with helping to do that? And I think the question comes back is, how do we go help find money for it? And once you can help find money for it, then you figure that piece out.
Yeah, and even this board is trying to help with drainage, in Austin. And so, it's a significant issue that, it really hurts us because of the funding. But anyway,
Well, let's do some field work, and at 9 o'clock, let's all meet at, Cope and 31 across from Orchlands, and
Get your backhoe out.
let's see how
Let's do
that
it.
water flows out across the streets into the promised land all over everybody's property with poor drainage.
Right.
Then you can prove to us, Josh.
The guys love being on
You can
equipment.
walk your
so-
talk, brother. What's that?
So the guys all love being on a piece of equipment, seeing
Oh
what
my
they can
gosh,
do.
we've got some serious problems. Anyway,
Everywhere.
Yeah, and those will be things that, I mean, as we know those, as we learn those will be things that we will be aware of from a PR, communication side, those type of things, because those are questions that people ask. Like, why are you doing this for that? And we need to have answers for those. We ask those questions, we answer those, you know, but we don't just shove things to the side and don't answer somebody. I mean, we're very upfront to make sure that, you know, we are all aware of what the public their public needs are. We talk with Josh, and a lot of times we'll have difference of, of us or anything, and be like, hey, we would recommend that we do this because here is why. And those are elements that maybe a developer doesn't think of, maybe you all may not think of, but why would we do this? And then those are the parts that just don't get overlooked, because we're out there connecting the community with the bodies that are involved, and or in this case, the developer is well involved, to make sure that they're looking at the community side, because everybody gets, consumed with what they're doing. We gotta get our job done. And we don't think about everybody, and that's where we get brought in, and then we solve a lot of problems before they ever start. Because we've looked at those scenarios, or in this case, how do we
If you
address
wanna
the
get involved with the board.
Okay.
That's who you need to call. He's been working very hard on it, trying to get things done, and he keeps hitting stumps or
Okay,
walls.
absolutely.
But I've enjoyed your videos for Austin. I think, a lot of these businesses that you all have been able to highlight has been very nice, and I enjoy the work that you guys do there. And I see it on LinkedIn and Facebook and other places.
I like what you guys are doing and what you're talking about. I think it's good for the public to know what's going on.
It does, and I'll tell you, one of the more proud things is that, and Josh can speak for this, is we're down in Clark and Floyd a lot. When we first started this, how many things would we have been able to say to anybody, banks and other people who may lend people money, who may come up here and say, hey, we're doing some event in Clark or in Scott County, come up. Right now, the first time was get people out, right? And we were able to do that. You kind of call everybody, make sure. Now, if we have something here, we're gonna have people come, because they know that it's not what everybody's overall opinion was 10 years ago, on Scott County, when national news decided to come in and say, oh, this is where the worst place in the world is, right? And we're gonna call all those news places back. We're gonna go, why don't you come back and do a rebound story on this area as one of the best places to live. And that's what our goal is for not just Austin, but have the opportunity to work for Scott County and tourism and that. And that's where, from us, it's a dream for us to be able to look at everybody and have all these pieces, because I know a lot about the politics and I know a lot of things about that, and I don't care. Right? I don't even care about it when I'm involved in them and other things. I want to make sure that we can bridge these gaps to get these things done. That's going to work for the community, that's going to work for the developer, it's going to work for you all, because my job is make everybody heroes, right? And that's what's exciting, is that if Josh sits there and says something to me, I can say, Josh, that's not the way that this needs to happen. And he trusts us enough to listen to us. Right? If you all say something to me and I'm going to say, hey, you really need to do this, and look at it in this terms. I mean, you'll see little things in Austin that we've been a part of, to where it's like, hey, I think you need to do this type of event, or you need to pave this parking lot because it matters. You need to put signs up in these empty lots to let people know that these aren't just empty. You all did something, and there's projects that are waiting for. And those type of things. And then but we also don't make up stuff. If there's work to be done, we're not painting this big pretty picture of everything that is not true. You know, we want people, we don't wanna bring people here and then they get here and say, oh, this isn't nothing like what I saw, right? We work together to make sure that there is that overall process that's filled to where if this is where we are now, we're making this really look good, but that's really where we're at. And then if we're gonna be there in a year, and we're gonna make these steps to get us there in a year and 2 years. Because last thing you wanna do is lie to people, right? So then when somebody comes here, they know what to expect. When an industry looks for a building and they wanna put their employees here, we're not just painting these pictures, we're highlighting the real businesses and the real people in the area and all of them, you know, and that's what you all see in Austin is, you know, I mean, we do these things like we did Scooter's Barbecue, their ribbon cutting. I mean, and we, you know, we video it, we photo it, we do it just as much as what we would have done in a downtown Louisville business or a Jeffersonville or New Albany business. We do it here because it matters. I'm a small business owner. I know how important those days are, you know, and then that builds that community that says, hey, you know what, they care. That didn't cost them a thing, you know, because of just what we have the contract with them is that those things are all paid for your community. You know, and that's where all of these things matter to where it ultimately builds that community and then people take a little bit more care and you make your little corner a little better and everybody else builds out. You know, and that's what ultimately we see that falls in a lot of rural or communities that are getting growth is that they don't have that piece. And that's where Josh really found the need with us to say, hey, we like what you did with us with Shadow Lake into these items, and we really need to start doing this in these other areas because it's so hard to sit there from a side with you all being commissioners, you know, and then working with all these things, but you got your own jobs to do, right? So you're doing those, and then that's where we help be those eyes and ears to work with the community, get to know, bring that information back and help set those plans to get your good stuff out. Cause it's getting done, it just, nobody knows a lot about it, you know, and we gotta get that message to where it makes sense and is consumable to people.
We talk about this a lot, you know, I mean, all of this stuff is very competitive. We're fighting with other regions, and so I think for a long time, and we've had some bumps in the road, kind of you alluded to earlier, trying to change messages, but at the same time, if, you know, I think it's our goal here to be a little more aggressive in getting stuff ready, from a standpoint that we can't get passed up if we don't have the information for buyers out there to be ready to invest. If we're saying, hey, hold on, we'll get that. A lot of these things, these items, they take time, and so they've already moved on.
Yeah.
And so we're missing opportunities daily that we are not in line with the right information for these investors to have in their hands when they come looking. So, and I'll just be honest, from years past, we've not recognized that. And so we are a little bit behind, no question. We can get there, because look, we can sell where we are, we can sell. We have the best infrastructure. We're very unique in that way. And when you think about, you know, 65, and when you think about 256, we got 56, the roads that run east to west, north to south, and which also buys into, you know, some of the housing that we're talking about that's coming in. It's a good commuter community, but it also can be a good industrial community again. And so we just need to do the right things to be able to start selling some of these assets that we have and capitalizing on them. I love the stuff that you're doing. I think that, you know, what we'll probably do is look at this, you know, and we'll think of some of these things that we know, what are the have-tos right now. You know, for the folks watching, all of these services that are listed, quite frankly, or some of them are expensive. They're expensive services, but it's a lot of work. And I obviously understand some of these services and what it takes to get these out the door. But, you know, we'll need to look through these. what are the most applicable things? What are the have-tos, to get, some of these items out? I know I talked with Chris earlier. We feel like that maybe there could have been a geotech report done out there some years ago. So we wanna look at that.
Sure.
And share that with you, Josh, and,
Yeah, the soil condition's not gonna change.
right, so a lot of that could be relevant to, helping us save a little money today. So we, as a board, look through some of these services and, move from there. We'll obviously look at the media service, and all of these things are important, and, we certainly take them very seriously, and I think, you know, we've talked about it on the side, you know, a lot of times, you know, this is one property, we feel like it's great to develop, it's off 65, but you got 2 exits, whether it's Crothersville or Austin. You know, I think it meets a lot of needs at a lot of different levels, so.
And I think it's time for Scott County, you know, you see that River Ridge is not doing any more speculative building. They're not allowing any of that. We've sold or committed all of our land at Shadow Lake across from it industrially. There's maybe one industrial site that's between Memphis and here, one. You know, Henryville doesn't have that site available. There's a potential one in Memphis, may or may not be taken, but after that, it's Scott County, and it's this exit, it's these 2 exits, so.
Which, with River Hills being a little bit more particular in some of those, they still check a lot of boxes for Scott County. So, you know, we're certainly interested. And so they would certainly check boxes and meet our needs here. So we want to be able to provide them that information, but that's a good point. There's really nothing.
It's time,
Yeah.
and the opportunities are going to come, and I think maybe Brad said you gotta be ready for it, and that's getting it ready. And your all's other discussion about a different piece of property, you know, if you guys decide to go forward with that, I'd highly encourage that you pick out a few of these items that'll be critical, so that you make sure that property satisfies the boxes that you need. Floodplain, wetland, and those things all, you know, once the crops come off, I haven't seen if the crops are still on that one, but once the crops come off, it's time to figure out and do some of those things if you're gonna spend money.
There's very little land in that.
And just from our standpoint, whenever you look at it, I know we put this together for it, but it's all inclusive. So it's your Facebook pages, your LinkedIn, whatever you give us to do. It would, if you want us to update the website, if it's tourism, same thing with them. It would be their Facebook, it would be their site, it would be the LinkedIn. Communications, so like I said, if there's trash, if there's pickup, if there's those items, it would be, you know, for events, us helping with any of the graphics that's needed for those type of items, ribbon cuttings, those type of things. The only thing that it's not including would be as if you say, hey, we want a billboard. You're gonna pay whatever that billboard space is, and that's a direct bill to you all. We don't mark it up, we help set it up, but it goes to you all. And then the upfront, 6 months is a little higher, and those are basically based off of the deliverables, because there will be a lot of those items that we will be done with, hand over to you, and then whether you ever retain our services or not, you'll have those. So we'll do a lot of those bulk things up front, depending on if there's new logo design, if there's new things that are being built, getting everything together, and that all our video production, all our photography, all that stuff is included. So it's not like when you get involved with us with this, you then have us coming back nickel and diamond to say, well, we were only supposed to do 2 videos or something. It is all encompassing, and we work together real closely on all those elements, so it's a turnkey program ultimately.
Anything else we could answer for you all? We've talked a lot.
Very enlightening.
Want a motion to table?
Absolutely.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor of the table, proposals for the property? Aye. Well, we certainly appreciate y'all coming in and sharing.
Absolutely.
Your night
Thank you for the
with us.
opportunity.
Next year.
Appreciate your partnerships always,
Absolutely.
Josh, and thank you, Jason. I know you guys, you've been doing a lot of great work, and I've seen it, and I've been impressed with it, so thank you.
You want us to hang around just in
If
case?
you would, I would just like for you to touch base with Chris. I
Yeah,
don't know
absolutely.
if that's an abbreviated geotech report, if it's the full.
We'll look and see what you
Yeah.
got. We'll hang around. Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so. Get back to the agenda. I have the consideration of minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Jim makes a motion to approve those, I guess second to approve the minutes. John Collins makes a second. All in favor? Aye, I vote. And, we'll sign the minutes for Jennifer.
I mean, we adjourn. There's no further business.
John Collins makes a motion to adjourn. Johnny White seconds. All in favor of adjourn. 5:08. Thanks, everyone.